Welcome. We have Walmart, Event Solutions, Synesys, and ScaleLogic. We have Justin Elliott, who's the Chief Engineer for Walmart Event Solutions. We have Matthew Jensen, who is our Technical Engineer with ScaleLogic, and Ian Caden with Synesys Oceania. So here we're going to talk a little bit about Walmart's infrastructure and workflow. So Justin, um, kind of focusing on pre-2015, because you described certain parts. So if you wouldn't mind, give us a little overview of your workflow at that time and a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, so I am on the technology side of the engineering team and technology for Event Solutions. So our team supports meetings and events for Walmart, and we also have a TV studio, auditoriums, and our storage basically supports the media for all of that. So as tape started disappearing and now we're editing on nonlinear systems with hard drives, we got to a point where it wasn't efficient to have external hard drives anymore. So we looked at getting storage that was fiber based, and at the time it was FiberJet, and it worked great for our guys. It's a very similar workflow to external hard drives. I'm looking for a certain project. I know so and so worked on it. I'll mount his drive and look at it. But as time progressed, and more media started appearing in our system, that's where we got to a point where it was hard for us to play that good old boy mindset of who worked on this project, when did they work on it, and try to find that drive. So it evolved into, instead of having all these different drives to work on, now we need to find a better way for us to work, a better way for us to share content between the teams, as well as the auditoriums and the studios, and that's kind of how we progressed. So our earlier stages was all about hard drives, and then volumes that you would use as hard drives.
Okay, thank you. So Matthew, from there, from ScaleLogic perspective and support, can you tell us a little bit about when ScaleLogic started and the relationship with Walmart at that time?
Yeah, sure thing. So starting in 2013 when ScaleLogic first started, we were able to, on day one, take their existing both storage and the FiberJet solution under our support, and help them out with any hardware or software issues that came up. We knew the hardware, we knew the software, we could provide spares, everything. But as Justin said, it's like FiberJet functioned as almost just kind of an extension of the external hard drive kind of workflow. Kind of, you know, the this project was worked on by this editor, so it must be in this location. Because what it essentially worked as that you had the storage chunked up into all these volumes, and only a single person could write one at a time. So what we did is that we have a shared file system called HyperFS, and we utilized their existing storage and put in both some new storage and some application servers to convert kind of volume by volume, which was a nice transition for them to kind of be able to do this pretty live. But what we did is that we over a period of time, we're doing just like a month or so, we were able to convert all those existing FiberJet volumes into a single shared volume under HyperFS. So suddenly, rather than having to look at everything on a per volume basis, they're able to set up a meaningful folder structure to actually say, here's all of our projects, organized by project number, whatever makes sense for you guys. And you can find exactly what you need that way, rather than having to check with an editor, hey, you were working on that, where was it, or anything like that.
So Justin, based on what Matthew said, can you elaborate a little more on the choice you made and when you moved away from FiberJet to HyperFS, and just
Yeah, so
fill in a few blanks?
Yeah, so there's a couple of reasons there. One, a lot of the guys from Workdata, they migrated into ScaleLogic, and as Matthew was saying, with the support, it was a very low cost transition for us. They were able to support us. We didn't have to buy an entire new SAN, so that was part of the reason there. But the other reason behind that change was just the relationship there. We had the relationship with the guys for quite a few years, and they knew how we worked, and and they were able to propose a solution for us that worked really well. And we did the transition from FiberJet during the day when we were live. It wasn't we're going to be down for a few days and migrate a frame at a time. We were copying data as it was going on, and I would tell our video editors, hey, I'm working on your data today. I'll do a final incremental tomorrow when it's done. And if you notice that your drive is no longer there, it's going to be in this location, which is our SAN. So that transition was really seamless. And then once we were able to transition an entire frame, at that point we were able to move that entire frame into HyperFS and grow the SAN until we got down to the last frame, and then it was all there. But I think we went through, it was like seven or eight frames worth of data, around like 500 terabytes, somewhere around there at the time. So it was a lot to move, a lot of copying, but like I said, we weren't taking the whole system down overnight. So it was great to be able to make that transition so seamless.
Could you just tell us a little bit about the content creation? Once the refresh and the evolution happened onto expanding storage and adding the new file system, what kind of content creation your team has been up to?
Yeah, so this is around 2015 when we transitioned to HyperFS, and what we saw was there's a lot of data here. There's a lot of information. There's a lot of videos. How do we stay fast? How do we stay nimble? How do we move through this? So one of the things that we looked at utilizing was Strawberry by Flavorasys, which is now Projective Technologies. They just changed their name recently. But one of the things that we really liked about that is it was project level management. So when you think about managing your assets, or you think about the guys editing a project and they've created the project on a drive in a certain location, we've kind of taken that away from them having to think about where their data is and brought it more towards like a jukebox style. So you create your project in Strawberry, and it creates their template of folders, and they start working on it. So what that allowed us was the ability to find projects faster, work between teams a lot faster. One of the biggest changes we made there was moving over to shared edits, so multiple guys could be in the same project at the same time. That was a big thing for us, for people to mount multiple projects and work between each of them. So we went from external hard drives to let's store it on a volume to let's live in one ecosystem. And then as soon as we were in that entire ecosystem, we realized that there's a lot of assets in here that we may not even necessarily know what it is or where it came from or how long it's lived there. When you think back that Walmart TV started back in the 80s, we have an entire library of all the Walmart TV broadcasts and meetings over the course of the years. It's like, how do you find that? How do you get to it quickly? How do you reuse it? How do you keep people from having to go out and shoot the same content over and over? So we started to find a need where we're moving fast. We're moving a whole lot faster. I think we have less editors now than we did back 5 or 6 years ago, because we're able to move with speed and reutilize people in different ways. But now it's turned into, how do we work even smarter by finding the assets that we've already created and use those again. And that's kind of where it led to 2018 and the refresh there.
Right, so leading into 2018 is when another evolution happened, and you started to look at expanding capacity, adding a MAM, and you were also looking at repurposing your storage into kind of a DR. So why don't you just talk about a little bit about the decision around when the change in 2018, and we can have Ian speak to the MAM part and Matthew speak to the DR part. So kind of lead it into the decision and what you started to do in 2018.
Yeah, so Matthew said earlier that around 2013 is where we migrated to ScaleLogic support. And that's a critical thing to know, because in 2018, now we have drives that are around 5 years old, and those drives have basically reached their limit and what they can do. So we had to exchange more drives out more frequently, and the more that you have to change your drives out, then the closer we have to pay attention to things. So one of the things that we really looked at is, these drives are 5 years old. We're replacing drives more often. It's probably about time to upgrade our system and go with newer controllers, newer frames, and let's rebuild this the way that it needs to be. But one of the things that was pointed out to us was we had a few frames that were only a couple of years old that we could still use. So we took the initiative, let's do this right, let's protect our data on spinning disk, and we created a DR side. So that's what we did. We took a lot of the same storage capacities from the new frames that we purchased, and we mirrored those into frames that were a couple of years old, and from those now we have a fully redundant system. So if our main primary SAN goes down, we have a backup SAN sitting there ready to give the guys their data with minimal downtime.
Okay. So as a part of this, with the MAM, Synesys was brought in as an integrator. So Ian, can you tell us a little bit about the solution provided for Justin's team, and then a little bit about what you do in Synesys?
Yeah, so I'm basically the technical lead for any of the media asset management systems that Synesys integrates in these environments. And a large part of my job is to come in and collaborate with folks like Justin to piggyback off of what he said. When you're coming from drives and a place where you guys were, there's a lot of tendencies and habits that get formed that may not be the most efficient way of working, especially when you switch to shared storage. And what we do in my team goes in and we understand the needs of the creatives. And we come in and say, okay, here's a way that we can work so that you can find this version on the fly. One of my colleagues, he has an adage that he uses all the time. If you have content and you don't know how to find it, then it doesn't exist. So I think that's one of the things that Walmart and Justin faced early on. And also in terms of, you mentioned Strawberry, also mapping that existing metadata that existed and was associated with existing content to the new asset management system to make sure that they don't lose any of the metadata that they already tagged to this content was very important in getting them up and running and moving towards production where their teams can actually work collaboratively and without interruption. And I'm sure that makes any media manager's life much easier when an editor doesn't have to worry about a SAN or a folder or where their data lives. They can just go and start working by just clicking on an icon.
Okay, so Matthew, Justin mentioned data redundancy, and ScaleLogic was a big part of working with the whole team up here on what we were doing in 2018. So can you talk a little bit more about that part?
Yeah, so what we did is that we took some of the, as Justin was saying, some of the newer frames that we had put in place, and we physically moved them. As you can see in the diagram behind me, they actually have, down in Bentonville, there's sort of 3 different sites, at least. But as far as the ones that were in with the fiber infrastructure, there's the main Walmart home office, and sort of the next largest is the Sam's Club building. And what we did is that we took 3 of their 36 bay frames, stuck them over at Sam's. We refreshed them with all new 10 terabyte drives to perfectly match the capacity of the online SAN. And we actually have Brocade switching and long wave transceivers that link the home office to the Sam's building. So it's within how far apart are those buildings?
As far as distance goes, it's probably 3 or 4 miles, but fiber, the way that we've got our fiber run, it's more than a 6-mile jump between our 2 locations. So we had to switch the long wave instead of short wave.
So it's actually one. I mean, we're not doing any type of Ethernet switch or anything. I mean, it's one large fiber channel fabric where not only is the DR site there, but there are some edit bays over there that are able to work off the production SAN. So what we do is that we have a I think ArcaWare P5 data mover at the disaster recovery site over at SAMS, and it's pulling data to a live HyperFS file system that's just sort of sitting idle over at SAMS Cloud. And what happens is that even if the online SAN goes down, not only is all their data available right away, but they actually have a full production system just ready to go with edit bays over there, metadata controller, everything that's part of their production system.
So that's one part of protecting the data and how it all moves around the campuses. Ian, can you talk a little bit more for assets management and why it's become so important in a shared storage environment?
It becomes important when you're particularly working with many teams, and Justin and I were just chatting before this, and he does a lot of events, and content is streamed back to your headquarters from all places around the country. So getting that data back to the storage is the first step. But when it actually gets to your central location, where it sits and how it gets divvied up to whatever volumes you need to get it to so that those teams can see this content and actively work on it on the fly without delay and without having to contact Justin and say, well, how was this shot? What resolution was it shot in? That information is all given when you implement media asset management. So that's particularly important. It's also important in terms of securing that in a way that doesn't limit your creatives. Justin and I went through a number of conversations where there were corporate policies that needed to be met, but they also couldn't infringe on the creatives actually working on this content. So they need to work in a very secure manner that fits their corporate schema and doesn't break any rules that IT wants to implement on this data, but that becomes seamless to the creatives when they get the content.
Okay, so I just have a quick question too, is where a company the size of Walmart, where you look at the cloud, the cloud's a big buzzword, hybrid cloud, moving data to the cloud and what everybody says. So what is your position within your department and how you look at that?
Yeah, we're definitely not opposed to it, and we're looking at implementing it in the right way. Speed is a big factor for us, which is why having a local spinning disk storage always wins, because our editors are connected with 16 gig fiber channel. Doesn't really matter how fast your internet is, it's going to be hard to beat that. So speed's a big deal, but one of the things that we're looking at is how do we implement it in the right way? Is it on the current projects that we're working on? Is it only on final assets that now we're sharing out with more of a repository to the company? So it's going through this whole setup and talking throughout the years makes it seem like we've got everything put together, but with this business, it's never put together. It's always changing. You're always having to think about what's next and what the right move is. So we're not in a rush to get there to the cloud for our assets. Now I can't speak to the total company because that's a whole different area. But for us with the media workflows, we're going to take our time and implement it in the right way, because what we don't want to get in a situation of is we've tried this cloud and that's not working, so now we've got to migrate and move over here. We want to make sure that we find what's best for us.
So Ian, as an integrator, kind of a similar question, but it's a little different. He's looking at it from a company perspective, but from your perspective as an integrator, what have you seen, and where do you see cloud integration within media and entertainment going?
So I have this conversation quite a bit with a number of my clients, and we'll also be chatting about it, but cloud actually comes in to play quite a bit when we're talking about long-term archiving. You obviously have very sophisticated fiber channel fabric going on, but to add on to that becomes costly after some time. And some of that content, you probably have content that goes back far ways that you're not going to be working with on a day-to-day basis. That's where cloud comes in, where putting in an asset management system like Cantaloupe Portal allows you to archive to a cloud, and if that's whatever solution that is, that can also go to something slower like Glacier, and then you're not paying as much to have that content available that you may only need once every 5 years.
Well, we'd like to thank all of you. And now, does anybody else have a question from around here that they'd like to ask the panel? Anyone? Well,
Hi, gentlemen. I had a quick question about sort of the future of media storage management. What is next? What haven't we talked about today that you feel like we'll be talking about 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now?
I'll start that, and maybe you can piggyback, Justin. But maybe in terms of what you mentioned, in terms of speed and access to the cloud, I think we'd probably see, a lot of improvements in actually being able to pull content down from the cloud in an effective way, where an editor would be able to work seamlessly without noticing any aggregation or speed restrictions.
That's what I see right now. Right now, we use the cloud for delivering to our internal customers. But as internet speeds get faster, as cloud becomes even more reliable and more seamless to use in corporate environments, at some point we'll be able to upload all of our projects on site as we're shooting them, and then be able to edit those proxy files local, and now we're just talking to the cloud that's stored there, and we're not limiting the speed of the end user. That's my biggest concern, is I can't get in the way of my creatives doing their work. I can't get in the way of my auditoriums being able to support the meetings and get their content in there. So I have to make sure that wherever those bottlenecks are, that they've been addressed. But as speeds increase and processing gets faster, we'll end up there. It's just a matter of when.
so Matthew, from ScaleLogic's perspective and from a cloud perspective, what on that?
I think just to say basically the same points that have been brought up already. That really it's just, I mean, you look at kind of the long-term time frame of cloud. It's like, email got there, phone systems got there, file sharing. It's all about the bandwidth that's available. So we're starting to see, or I think what we'll start to see in the future is just that I think at some point everything will be there as far as video editing, where it's not that necessarily you're working in like a local instance of Adobe Premiere that's then working off the network share. It's just that maybe you're even working off a virtualized, there's a workstation up in the cloud. You're on your iPad with just a Bluetooth mouse. Like you have a very thin client, and all the power is off in a solid data center somewhere.
Okay. Is there any other question from anyone else? Well, we'd like to thank you all. And again, it's Justin from Walmart, Matthew from ScaleLogic, and Ian from Synesys. We thank you very much. Appreciate it.